Welcome to On the Entrepreneur's Journey, the show where we unpack real stories behind how companies scale, evolve, and ultimately run without their founders. Today, I'm joined by Jeff Helfgott, CEO of Boardroom Salon for Men, a fast-growing, upscale men's grooming brand that's shifting from corporate stores to a franchise-driven model. Jeff's background spans the Army, Kellogg, private equity-backed leadership roles, and multiple successful exits. What makes his journey unique is the clarity of his North Star, a values-driven approach that has shaped every major decision in his career and now defines how he's building Boardroom Salon for Men. We'll talk about culture, labor, franchising, the membership models they use, and the 3-year vision for the brand. So welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, good. So let's dive in. I love sort of how you lead, and the thing that when we were talking earlier that really got me, because I coach this very thing, was that you basically have framed Enron's core values in your office as a daily reminder of values on paper are not the same as the values that you need to show and lead with. So how do you hold yourself accountable for living the values that you came up with at Boardroom Salon for Men?
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I've had a lot of great supervisors and leaders from my time in the military to my time in the corporate world that have shown that you can lead an incredibly successful and profitable business by leading with your values. So over the lifespan of my professional career, having so many different types of leaders showcase how different values are able to translate into really actionable steps for the teams to be taking when they're not in the rooms to give that direction. Has just really helped me find what my own personal values are and how I can merge them with what the core values are of the team that I'm coming on board. And I haven't started a company of my own from scratch. So in almost every circumstance, I have joined a high-performing team that was already successful before I got there and would be successful without me there. So I've had to learn how to shape and continue to push the organization by adapting myself to the culture and at times the values they have, while also pushing them a little bit to understand what made them successful in the past might not make them successful in the future. So the idea of, one set of core values dictating your life might be great for your own personal journey, but the best leaders that I've worked with are able to adjust their performance and their mindset to the needs of the organization they're running at a time. And more importantly, help them understand what organizations are not a good fit because their core values and how closely they prescribe to it aren't a match for the leaders' personal values. So, your question was about how you drive accountability for that. I think a lot of it comes from understanding who you are and what the organization is and making sure that you're being thoughtful when you select the next leadership role to find as much overlap as possible, because that makes the day-to-day enforcement substantially easier.
Now let's unpack that for a moment. So when you were joining and in discussions, obviously you took a look at, those core values. You found that they aligned and that attracted you versus repelling you, as you say, as it would any employee. So let's just say what are the core values that Boardroom Salon for Men is that takes you forward?
The interesting thing with Boardroom is they actually didn't have core values when I joined. They had previously had a set of core values when the founder launched the business. And then in the interim between me and the founder, there was another leadership team that stepped on and pivoted to something they called brand truths, which to me was always more of kind of a marketing campaign or a branding campaign style framework where you align around how the brand wishes to be presented I had a really hard time coaching the field team on those brand truths. And where I always come down to with core values is how do those words inform the decisions of the team when you're not in the room to be supervising? So like a lot of leaders, I chose not to come on board and immediately begin to make new decisions. I wanted to seek to understand because perhaps brand truths were a good fit for this team, and maybe it was something they could rally around. But as I spent a lot of time in the field, it didn't seem like there was really any cohesiveness or rallying around behaviors tied to those brand truths. And it was hard to coach off of them as well. So I made the decision to revitalize the core values with some slight updates because some of the core values as they were written were more about what you're not supposed to do rather than what you are supposed to do. And I found a good blend of the two is appropriate. And then there was also one thing that I felt was missing. Boardroom when I got here was a brand that had franchisees in the past, still had some active in the system, but franchising wasn't really a focus area. So it felt like at times there was this division between what the corporate stores were doing and then what the franchisees were doing. And at times, even a difference from what the centralized support team was doing. So when I looked at the old core values and I was thinking about relaunching them, there was that one North Star about winning as a team that was missing. So when I relaunched the core values, I made win as one team. The new value that was added to the ones that had been present in the past, which is or passion for service, a commitment to growth, results driven, and then a positive mindset. Because I find personally, people who have a positive mindset are able to accomplish a tremendous amount and have fun while doing it, which is kind of the cornerstone of culture. So adding that win as one team really helped unlock a lot of the behavior that I was seeking to drive with the new team, recognizing that our franchisees are a huge part of the business today, but also the future. And getting our corporate team members in the salons more frequently so that they had the opportunity to interact with each other. And one of my favorite insights that someone taught me a long time ago was there's a big difference between truth and fact. Fact you can get from spreadsheets, from running reports, but you don't really understand the truth until you go to the field. You talk to the clients, you talk to your team, you get to understand the truth behind those numbers. So that win as one team mindset, I attribute to so much of the success that we've had and also the team's willingness to go back to values that they had been using in the past, and many of our team members, because of longevity of their time with Boardroom, were familiar with them. But their willingness to embrace a new core value, to me, was a great example of respecting the heritage, but not being held hostage by it.
Yeah. And that must set you up really nicely for the next phase, which is the franchise thing. And certainly that would dovetail nicely with that strategy for sure. Okay. So changing gears a little bit, we talked a little bit about, the COVID affected businesses differently. And obviously, must have been a horrible time when people couldn't go out and get haircuts and all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, you have a requirement, a very high requirement in your labor pool of very high performing and experienced stylists. So what happened coming out of COVID? Because I know there was some churn problems, there was some burnout, there was some stuff that happened, and what have you done to address that?
Yeah, I was fortunate that I was through the beginning of COVID leading a Planet Fitness franchise to exit in this time. So gyms were opening up at different times depending on the states that you were in. But because of the way we were able to retain our team through that tough time period, our fitness business was able to emerge from COVID even stronger than when it entered. Very few hair salons enjoyed that outcome. And when you think of a gym, really the biggest challenge is getting the doors open and then maintaining the cleanliness, the atmosphere, and the customer service. If you do that, It's kind of like if you build it, they will come. People
Hmm.
come for the gym. Your team can make it from a B to an A experience, which is super important when they have a lot of choices. But really, a lot of people like to come work out, not engage with the staff whatsoever. So your real responsibility is keeping it a clean, safe facility for them. In the barber in hair care industry, so much of the experience is dictated from the relationship you have with your professional. And COVID was tough for professionals in the grooming space. You're right next to your client face to face. And for a lot of people in this industry, they had real concerns about what their health and safety would be like. There are limited ways that you can um, really make that environment safer, other than completely layering up with PP&E, and then that erodes some of the relationships, some of the bond that you have with the person in your chair. Coupled with the fact that um, there were difficult relationships be based off political ideologies, where people might have a different perspective of how to engage in this time. There are a lot of reasons for people to leave the barbering industry for a period of time. And as you spoke to boardroom, we don't hire people out of barbershop academies or who are new as a stylist. We generally hire people that have at least 8 years of experience cutting hair because our clients in upscale men's grooming expect the absolute best service and quality of cut every single time. So we have to recruit and retain people who are exceptionally talented, many of whom decided to leave the industry for a period of time. So it was a tough moment stepping in kind of at the tail end of COVID from the perspective that our voluntary churn was about 70% per year, which was higher than the
Wow.
industry average. It was substantial. And I think the challenge the industry had was not only were some people leaving the industry altogether, but others were deciding, I'm going to create my own salon suite and rent a room or rent a chair, at the numerous options there were to do that and be entrepreneurs of their own, which I always respect. Anytime someone wants to start an entrepreneurial journey, I'm thrilled for them. I think over the next couple of years, many of them learn that being an entrepreneur is difficult. It's nice to have a team that can support you with the parts of the business that are less exciting for someone that's more creative. Like very few barbers wake up one day and are like, I want to do accounting and I want to hire a bunch of people that be responsible for HR compliance. Like I
Right.
can count on zero hands how many
I,
of
I,
them join the industry to do that.
I,
Um,
I always use the line, and I use it for really all entrepreneurs. It's like, raise your hand if you started a business because you're good at business. And the answer is very few do. And I'm sure in the barber profession, that would also be the case. So there's a lot to learn around that. And that obviously is one of the reasons I exist. So, um, but anyway, so how did you address that? I mean, you had this people doing the entrepreneurial thing, the all the reasons you cite make tons of sense, because it is an intimate relationship. It is close, proximate. So how did you address that as you came out of COVID? You show up in the seat. How did you get the churn down, which you did successfully?
A lot of it was focusing on building relationships with the team. Within the first few months, I visited almost every single salon that we had across, at the time, 8 states, which was a tremendous investment of time, one that I made very clear from my initial interviews with the investors I wanted to make because I viewed the relationships with the field to be absolutely critical, not just from understanding where we could be better, but more importantly, putting a face to a name, so that I could begin to build a relationship that would allow them to give me the benefit of the doubt. Because ultimately in business, you will make mistakes. It is easier to be graceful and forgiving if you know the person and believe that they have a good heart and are intending well. So, in the beginning, building a relationship with them, spending a lot of time out in the ground, that also allowed me a lot of windshield time with the field operators. So if I have 8 salons I'm visiting in one market, that means I get to see every salon manager for a period of time. But that means that I get 8 more times of experiences with the field manager who is out there every single day. And the more that they believe in leadership, the more they can be an advocate for you when you're not in the room with the field team. So that initial investment helped me kind of pinpoint a couple places that I wanted to focus on, one of which was, again, relaunching the core values, since it didn't seem like there was a North Star for the team in the field or connectivity with a central support team. We also recognized that for people that were leaving to be entrepreneurs of their own, we want to give them a graceful exit. Too often, I have seen people burn the bridge by publicly stating, I am going to go and be a successful entrepreneur and I don't need you guys anymore. But they ran off and became an entrepreneur, and then they decided, oh, this is really tough. I don't want to do this anymore. It was difficult to come back, even if they hadn't burned the bridge by saying something unprofessional or not giving enough transition time for the clients to have a good home. Sometimes they would just feel a little embarrassed, like they failed. So what we pivoted, a really tactical example of a small but nuanced thing that I love that we began to do with our people and talent team, was in the exit interviews with our leaving stylists and barbers. We would say, you left on great terms. We loved having you here. We really believe in you, and we're excited to see what you do. And if it doesn't work out, we're going to keep you active in our payroll system so we can flip you back on as soon as you raise your hand. Because we would love to stay in touch if you make the decision to come back at some point. So we found that kind of leaving the door open and making it where we were clear, as long as we leave on good terms, we're not soliciting clients from, or at least clients that Boardroom had invested in bringing, there's a door open for you to come back. So they wouldn't feel as ashamed if they did have to come back. We were leaving that door open for them. We also, super simple, pivoted away from the non-compete agreements because those felt like sticks in the industry rather than carrots. And rather than hiding behind form letters that were very difficult to understand and were very intimidating to people who don't have a law degree, we transitioned to a plain English non-solicitation agreement that was written like you or I would talk, not how lawyers would talk. Removed the non-compete clause from it because if someone really wanted to go be an entrepreneur, we want to encourage them to do it. But
and they're also very hard to enforce. Yeah.
Very hard to enforce. And frankly, you don't want to, I will tell you as a business owner, speaking to other business owners, you don't want to be in court trying to explain to a judge and a jury why you, a large corporate entity, should be bringing a suit against a single mother who's trying to provide for her kids in the only trade that she has known. Like no one wins in that conversation.
Yeah.
So I found like little things like that, giving a graceful exit, simplifying the legal contracts with our teams. So we were speaking to them instead of at them. These are little examples of small changes that began to have an impact on our brand as our brand reputation as an employer of choice. So again, I'd be doing a disservice to the team by saying that was all we did. I'd also be boring the audience. I gave every single example.
Yeah.
But I love those too because it shows to the level of detail that we were getting in what I think to be pretty creative things in building better relationships with the field.
Right. So the results obviously speak for themselves. I can't remember the number, but the churn went way down as a result of those steps, and
over 50%. Yeah. Huge.
So that's great. So let's get to the business model a little bit because that obviously drives the exit, the valuation, everything else. The idea is that you want to have a recurring revenue stream, and you want to create this atmosphere, upscale, relaxing environment, as you say, for this, the upscale men's grooming club model. How has that been an attraction, and has it been successful in growing membership as you've moved along?
It has been tremendously successful. We have more than 2.5 times increased our membership rolls. And our membership retention is exceptional. It's better than Netflix's based off last publicly available information. Our churn is under 3% a month, which is a level I never even got to in fitness. So clearly, our clients are responding exceptionally well to the new membership offerings that we have. And yeah, I think when you think about your business in a recurring revenue model, the certainty that it brings both sides, both the business and then the clients, is hugely important. But it's also really important for stylists and barbers from a retention perspective, because so much of their outcome is driven from tips. Um, when you think about their total compensation, it can be anywhere from 40 to 70% of their total compensation is driven from tips. So having the certainty that you will have a book of business that is recurring in nature, you will have regularly scheduled appointments with your clients, allows our stylists and barbers to just feel very confident and certain that Boardroom is a great place for them to build a career. So I place a tremendous amount of focus on our memberships and how do we continue to make it an even better value. And don't treat it like it's written in stone. I think there are some businesses that get it right the first time. Um, Most businesses could do with constant evaluation of how can we make our membership even more compelling. Um, and I appreciate that the collective Boardroom team, that it had a version of memberships for over 15 years in its 21-year history, was willing to embrace such a different model than what we had historically done, because it's proven to be tremendous for all of the stakeholders involved.
So I've had a client in the car wash industry and in the Northeast, so very weather dependent. You get snow, rain, and no activity, and that subscriber model was the thing that allowed them to attract private equity, allow leverage to come into play because you had that recurring. You were banging credit cards every month, regardless of the weather. But there was a balance because obviously you offer a nice deal to attract somebody to come in and say, okay, everybody gets a haircut, whatever, for 6 weeks, whatever the number is, maybe more often. But you have to make it attractive so that they feel that they're getting value for it, as you say. And then there's the walk-in traffic, which, is going to pay the retail price, which is presumably higher. And so there's that balance of that recurring stable revenue, but you also can capture sort of the a la carte walk-in. How do you balance that, Jeff?
I look at the membership as having a number of dynamics that allow us to convey value to people who have different priorities. One very clear value, as you described, was a cost savings. So when we launched it, in order to get our feet underneath us and learn a little bit about the model, we were offering about a 20% savings from our a la carte pricing from the walk-ins would pay. And we felt that was pretty aggressive as a discount, but we wanted to see what the penetration would be if we went a little bit more aggressively than we thought. Over time, we've seen that there's other elements of value that are even more powerful. So we have trimmed that discount by, tweaking the prices to be about a 12 to 15% discount, depending on the membership that they select. We target people that place such a premium on the experience, so they're often willing to pay more. And if you compare our pricing to entry level barbershop options such as a Grapes Clips or Supercuts, we are substantially more expensive, even compared to some of I'd say the middle price point places, because we're investing more time in a premium experience. One thing that's unique about Boardroom, we don't do rinse and shampoos for only people who pay more. We consider that to be part of the service, so that's included for free. And we have a dedicated shampoo room in the back, which is a very relaxing experience. The lights are dimmed. You get a really enjoyable experience back there because you're not hearing people talking to you about sports games or other things on the floor. You get a nice spa-like experience in the back, dim lights, hot towels, all that's included in the price of the service. So not only can you relax because you don't have to worry about being upcharged, but we have a really unique place in the back that allows you a truly relaxing experience, plus a fantastic haircut as well. So understanding that price is one factor there, and then the premium experience and getting that more consistently is another factor. We've been exploring what are the other elements of value that we can make available for our members that make this an unbeatable option. So really excited by what we have rolled out. One of the new things that we are launching is a product and service credit that accrues for our premium members, so that they can get other services and even some of our products for free with credits that they accrue every single month as a way of extending more value to them. So again, these are innovations that have come through a lot of conversations with our members, a lot of conversations with our team, who talks to members with much greater frequency than I will ever have the chance to. I read every single Google review, what comes in. I do that at the end of every month. I read every single NPS review that has written text at the end of every month, sometimes sooner. And then I'll often follow up when a client says something interesting that I think I could be learning from, especially when it talks about the value of the membership. So I think the North Star here is make sure you're really listening. And that's not just to clients or when you have the opportunity to speak to them face to face, but every channel in which your clients engage with you. But your team talks to them so much more. So a collection of all these anecdotes together gives more of these little facets of truth so that you as a leadership team can compile all these and then understand what are our customers trying to tell us and how should we adjust based off of that.
Very, very thoughtful on the value proposition. And I like that and how you're continuing to tweak it. So just to complete that portion of it, do you have a target sort of a la carte versus sort of the subscription model? Is there a target, or do you feel more subscriptions the better, or how do you look at that?
I like subscriptions because they offer certainty. There are some men that just don't want to sign up for them. They have subscription fatigue, and others just have a fear of commitment. And I'll raise my hand on that as being someone that lived in that glass house. I got married at 40. So
Yeah.
again, like really,
I get it.
I can understand why some people might not want to be tied into a contract until you find the right partner, which took me some time to do. Hopefully we are that partner to our clients. But, I think realistically, once you get above 50%, it really becomes harder and harder to get the next person to sign up for a membership. The more that we introduce people to it, I think the better, but I'm also candid that they're learning a lot about us. What we find are people graduate to Boardroom from other great brands that are at a lower price point. So we have to educate them of why there is more value in paying more for a more relaxed experience. And even that, like, we don't optimize for every possible client. There are people who are financially rich but time poor. They might prefer the 15-minute in and out, no shampoo included. Our fastest service is 30 minutes because we really want to invest the time for the consultation, for the haircut experience itself, the relaxing rinse and shampoo, and then the styling post-care so that they leave looking and feeling their absolute best. That takes more time, and that's not for everyone. So I think there are going to be people that love our model, but only want to invest in it before really critical holidays or, photo shoots when look has to be absolutely perfect. You come to Boardroom for that. There are other people that want to invest in that and have the time and the money to do so and make that part of their routine. We welcome them. So I think I don't want to optimize for a number because that often comes at the expense of disenfranchising people who are a great fit for our appointment-based service instead of the membership.
Yeah, I got it. And I've asked this question before in different industries, and that's kind of where things shake out. It's kind of like 50% is good, and it provides the steadiness and the constancy that you need and the ability to leverage and attract capital. And yet, on the other hand, we don't want to force anybody into a role that's not natural. So that's interesting. Okay, so now we're at a point. You started in Texas and sort of the southeast or southwest rather. You've chosen that you're going to go to franchising as your next step, and you've signed up with a partner in Oklahoma. What is what led to the decision to move towards franchising? Was it you felt it was a quicker way to grow, or what? Or what was the thinking behind it?
I've been on both sides of the table. So as a franchisee and a franchisor, I know the power of having the right people around the table. What I love about franchisees is that by nature, they're entrepreneurs. They will push a brand to be better. And I think most brands would benefit from people that are, fiduciaries and true partners that want the same thing. They just have different views of how to get there. And with franchising, it allows a franchisor the opportunity to say, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm not ready to do that across the whole system, but why don't you try that? Let's align on measurements of performance together. And then after a period of time, we'll take a step back as partners and say, how did it go? Is this worth doing? Was it only successful because of your heroism? Or is this something that could be, operationalized across our entire footprint of franchisees and corporate stores? Franchisees just also have such a passion. And what I love about them are when you can find someone that's willing to dedicate not only some of their net worth through their investment and personal guarantees on the leases and loans, but also more importantly, their reputation. These are people who are putting their name next to the brand. And when they're living in their community, whether they're at Costco on Saturday or church on Sunday, if a client comes up to them and says, hey, you guys got this wrong, that entrepreneur is going to fix it right then and there. They
Yeah.
have that passion. They are proud to wear the brand. They live it every day. They have the Rolodex and relationships within that community to help the brand get its full potential. And they care. So they're going to find a way to get it right. Franchising is tough. And what scares me is when I hear people who are like, well, I want to make a lot of money and I want to scale this, so I'm going to do it through franchising. And that very rarely works out because franchising is a lot of work. With every new franchisee, they take that same energy and they have ideas and directions which don't always align to your own. They have their own vision and they have their own challenges. And, a lot of them are going to be calling you as the franchisor all the time. And it's a lot of cats to herd. And as a franchisor, you have a real responsibility, not just a legal one, but a moral one, to be setting this system up in a way that your franchisees can be successful. And I think the best franchisors are the ones that maintain some of their own corporate stores. Because when you're operating the playbook every day, you get to eat your own dog food. You are out there running the business. You're not just advising franchisees how to do it. You can speak to it with authority because you're running your own. And if you're making suggestions on investments that the franchisees, or even potentially worse, mandating investments that franchisees are making along the way, it's really great when you're showing that you're willing to stroke the check yourself because you believe enough in it. So franchising, I don't think of as a quick way to do it. I think of it as the best from a long-term perspective. Because you get really highly energized, high-performing, highly motivated people in their communities, living there every day, acting as people that are true advocates for the brand and will push the brand to be better. You just have to make sure that you're in a position to deliver for them. And that's why I'm in the crawling stage. We had a tremendous deal in Oklahoma where we had a high-performing franchisee acquire our 3 existing corporate stores and commit to build another 5 around there, which is a tremendous vote of confidence of our brand. But and what we talk about every week in our weekly call is how are we going to make the investment that franchisee made into the best financial decision of their life? How are we going to help them be tremendously successful? And if you could bring that kind of energy and that kind of win as one team mindset, franchising can be a great fit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a very balanced approach, and I like the idea that you have a hand in the game too, and you're not just talking from theory. You've got your own stores to measure from, and that's really good. So let's look ahead. You're PE owned, and you as well as anybody knows what that means, which is there's a time horizon, there's a clock ticking, and you've got to get make that investment work for everybody, who including the owners. So what does the next 3 years look like for you? Because that's kind of the 3 to 5 to 7 years is kind of the PE ownership sort of model. But so what does it look like for Boardroom?
I am very fortunate that our financial partners look at Boardroom differently than many other investments that other private equity groups or even our existing investors have looked at in the past. We're their first investment,
Oh,
and
wow.
Boardroom holds a very close place to their heart. It was the first founder that said yes to them, and we are aligned. We want to see this brand reach its full potential. Now, at some point, private equity groups normally specialize at a certain size investment, and as the business grows beyond that size, it's great to find a new partner who specializes at taking it from that higher level to the next size that
Yeah,
the organization can reach. So at some point, we'll outgrow the capabilities our sponsor has, but we're not looking at it from a time perspective. We also have no debt on the business, which is very unusual.
that
So it
is very
allows me to
unusual.
invest. It's very unusual, and it was very fortuitous through COVID. We could make long-term decisions. So I feel unshackled from a ticking clock. I think all the pressure is really on me, is self-inflicted, because I see this tremendous potential to get a nationally scaled, upscale men's grooming brand. There is not one today. Uh, a couple have tried, and then as they get to that magic number of 50 to 100, they see the wheels begin to wobble and then eventually fall off. Scale is tough, especially if you're not investing in the infrastructure to support it. And again, I think that's the strength of boardrooms from a competitive positioning perspective. All of those corporate stores that we own are throwing off EBITDA that allow me to make investments into a brand that a pure franchise group could not afford at the size that we're at today. Um, so I think from the next 3 years perspective, I want to use our size and our profitability and lack of debt as a weapon to invest in franchising in ways that similarly sized brands could not, so that we could really help unlock more tools for our franchise partners. Everything from really sophisticated marketing, which we've seen a tremendous response from what we've done over the last 6 months, especially. We relaunched a web page, which has incredible conversion. Um, we've made investments into brand content, which is really exciting. And I'm having a lot of fun watching really talented people put stuff together and engaging the audience in ways that this industry has not historically done. Also on the talent side, I look at our mandate as a franchisor. We have to not only help attract great clients to our brand, but we have to establish a reputation as a great employer, because our real finite resource, the diamonds for Tiffany's in this example, are our talented stylists and barbers. There are a finite number of them, and it takes a long time to get someone to the point where they're able to walk into our salons and credibly cut hair for our clientele at the standard that we expect. So being that lighthouse for those talented and very limited pool of stylists and barbers, that's where we as a brand are really investing so that we could help attract more people for our franchisees. So those are the two places in which I want to continue to invest. And with that, our stores will continue to be even more profitable. We had a great year this year, and I'm really excited to publish our FDD in 2026 that reflects how great of a year we had. I think between the longevity of the brand, the numbers that we're consistently producing, and the leadership team and the desire to grow, we're going to attract some really excellent franchise partners. And my goal is not to be slinging licenses, but I want to sign a very small number next year so that I can feel 100% confident I can deliver for the people who are willing to put their name next to our brand.
Well, I love how this holds together because you're in the people business squared. You have to attract the customers, and the barbers are obviously, as you said, they are your assets, and so and to start with culture to address both those is, I think, a very good approach for this industry, especially. And I think you've done that. And I didn't realize that you were debt free because it's so rare in the PE space that happens that. That gives you the latitude to make those investments, which I think is good, and you'll be selective. And so and you have a patient private equity investor, which is good too. So I mean, you're in a way you've got some anomalies there that work in your favor, I think, very much. So great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. And as I said, I really like your approach, and I especially the people part of it. And now I see exactly why that's so important. And how is it, if people want to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to reach out to Boardroom Salon?
We'd love for you to come check out our experience in person so that you can see it. I find the best franchise partners are the ones who love the service themselves. To get in touch with me, I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn, or you can just get me at jeff@boardroomsalon.com.
Great, great. Well, again, thank you for your time, and to the audience, until next time, thank you for joining us on the entrepreneur's journey today. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.